everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. Okay, so spoiler season for Tarkir is in less than a week, and yeah, Wizards I don't think understands exactly what spoiler season means these days, because random things just, well, either get leaked or spoiled miscellaneously or sets in the future, but we do have a early spoiler from spoiler season, actually from Wizards. Let's jump into it. There's been a lot of debate on this card already on whether it is a card that is actually, well, good. I mean, again, like what the standard for good is these days obviously has been raised, and we can see that like things have been raised with this card, but like, is it good? Is it going to see playing Commander? And I think the answer really is, well, let's jump in the card, talk about some commanders, and then make our decision on just how good a card like Rally the Monastery is. It's an instant for 4 mana in white. It's going to cost 2 less to cast if you cast another spell this turn. It says choose 1. Create 2 1/1 white monk creature tokens with prowess, or up to 2 target creatures you control each get +2/+2 until end of turn, or destroy target creature power 4 or greater. So this does a lot of things for you. It is a very flexible card that definitely harkens back to a card from original Tarkir. But again, things have changed since then, and again, things have changed since earlier in Magic on just kind of, well, the flexibility of cards and kind of how efficiently costed they can be, because yeah, at 4 mana, this would not see like literally any play at all. But again, it is a spell that is dependent upon you casting something else on that turn. You get a massive benefit. You get a 2 mana benefit essentially, and if that thing that you just cast was, say, 1 mana, you're spending even less than you would just on this spell in general. So yeah, for certain types of strategies out there that obviously are going to be consistently casting things that are decently cheap, yeah, this is a card that can definitely see play in those types of strategies. And again, when it comes to like what this does, yeah, I mean, making 2 1/1s, that's just like at 2 mana, that is the standard for, hey, okay, 2 mana, make 2 1/1s, you know, like dragon fodder type cards. And on top of that, these 1/1s have prowess, which of course is relevant for certain strategies out there, especially again when it comes to strategies that already are going to be doing what this card wants you to do, cast spells. So Spellslinger, obviously, could be a place for this one. And again, it is flexible in that it's either creature token production, which of course can help you go wide for offense, and especially with those prowess creatures, or defense as well, and be like, okay, I need a chunk blocker right now. Awesome, we'll cast another spell. Maybe it's a cantrip, why not cast this, get some chunk blockers out there. Or, of course, again, pumping some creatures unexpectedly, that can be very nice as well. Certain strategies can take even more advantage of that, you know, if you've got maybe double strike creatures, etc., etc. That being said, obviously, yeah, the removal can be massive. Again, this being like flexible, removal could be one of your removal pieces in the deck for a go-wide strategy as well. Yes, it's dependent upon power, but typically when it comes to taking out a threat, you're like, oh, big creature, big threat, take it out. Yes, please. So this does a lot of things, and again, like the base level of this card, if you're not casting another spell, is garbage. But if you are casting that other spell, the base level is very good again, and you are getting a good amount of value out of this one. And certain types of commanders out there, including some very popular commanders, are going to want to consider this one. And also, I think I saw this mentioned in the comments as well, that, yeah, this little, like, you know, like, this spell costs 2 less to cast if you cast another spell this turn. They need, like, a kind of keyword for, you know, like, cast our spell this turn. Like, I think they already have Surge, kind of, right, of some sort, but, like, something along those lines would be nice just to kind of simplify that a little bit. I know we've got a lot of keywords, but, like, I think that's something that could be keyworded. We shall see. It's an interesting concept, again, moving forward. Be like, okay, yeah, like, a swath of cards that all cost less if you were casting something else on that turn. Very interesting. Now, with all that said, though, let's jump into talk about some of those commanders that I want to highlight that should definitely be considering a card like this. So, first up, not that Hinata Dawn Crown needs any more help, but this could be a card that could definitely see play with a Hinata deck. A 4/4 Kieran Spear for 4 mana. In Jeskai, flying trample spells you cast, target 1 less cast for each target. Spells your opponent's cast cost 1 more to cast for each target. It is a, well, I mean, it's a crazy commander, number one. It's not for every single Hinata deck, obviously, but it can definitely be built in a spellslingery type way, because you can reduce the cost of your spells down to nearly nothing. And so, yeah, casting multiple spells in a turn is very, very easy for you. And especially with Rally the Monastery, I mean, like, that card could just be like another throw in, like, oh yeah, sure, why not, like an extra, flexible removal spell for me, or sure, yeah, get some tokens out there that have prowess, which can become massive threats to my opponents as well. And it's a card that, again, can literally just cost a single mana for you, because, yeah, if you cast another spell on that turn, and then you cast that one, and you're targeting again for that removal, it all of a sudden is a 1 mana get rid of something spell. So yeah, it is definitely one to consider for now, depending on the build. Again, like spell slinger type strategies, we'll bring up some other ones here in a little bit, are definitely ones to consider for this card. Another example, and perhaps a better example for a Spellslinger commander, might be Kykar Wind's Fury, a 3/3 bird wizard for 3 mana in Jeskai flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white sphere creature token with flying, sacrifice a spirit, add red. Yeah, being able to spell sling with Kykar is most definitely a thing. Again, a go wide type strategy with Kykar is very common, because you're going to be casting a lot of non-creature spells, a lot of low-the-ground non-creature spells, and being able to go wide with a lot of flying spirits. And now on top of that, obviously, if you need some monks, cool, make some monks that have prowess. And of course, those can become massive threats, very hard for your opponents to actually block when you've got like all of this mana open, essentially, because you've got all these spirits in play, as well as probably mana open and cards in your hand, and your opponent's like, okay, how do I block this? Yeah, I guess I'll block with a 6/6. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, cool. All right, spell. Make a lot of spirits. And also I just pumped my monks. And now all of a sudden your creatures that block are taken out as well. Or again, flexible removal when you need it. Again, a card that can definitely be good in a lot of different ways. And of course, yeah, pumping a couple different spirits if you need to get them through or whatnot. It is flexible in so many ways. Kykar could definitely be a place for it. Next up, how about Narset Enlightened Exile, a 3/4 human monk for 4 mana in Jeskai. Yeah, Jeskai is definitely a home for this card, potentially, with like spell slingery type things. Creatures you control have prowess. So keep in mind, prowess does stack, meaning that the monks that we are creating with our new card are going to be double prowess, basically. So anytime we cast a non-creature spell, they get pumped basically +2/+2, which is massive. So yeah, that can definitely be impactful. On top of that, whenever Narset attacks, exile target non-creature non-land card, mana value less than Narset's power from a graveyard and copy it. Cast copy without paying its mana cost. Yeah, this is a card that can obviously give you a lot of additional really cool card advantage throughout the game, essentially. And of course, kind of just based on that attack, you're like, oh, okay, I already checked the box of casting a spell in the turn, essentially, so I can cast my card, again, at that reduced cost. And of course, even if it is in your graveyard without the reduced cost, obviously, you can very easily cast it with Narset just by getting Narset's power 1 tick higher by casting any non-creature spell, essentially. Or should I say 2, because it is value less than, not equal. That being said, very easy to get there, of course. And again, that double prowess on those monks can be incredibly impactful as well. So definitely a place to consider that card. Sticking on the monk theme, though, the archimandrite might want to consider this one as well. 0/5 human advisor for 5 mana in Jeskai. Again, I said Jeskai, definitely a thing for this card, apparently. Beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life for X number of cards in your hand -4. Whenever you gain life, each advisor, artificer, and monk you control gains vigilance and gets +X with 0 until turn. Rex the amount of life you gained. And by tapping 3 untapped advisors, artificers, and or monks you control, draw a card. Yeah, this is a commander that is really good at keeping a full hand and then some. Yeah, having a lot of cards in hand, essentially. So having extra spells is pretty easy to essentially like, oh, okay, cool, you have some extra spells. But of course, on top of that, getting monks into play can be, of course, very beneficial to this. Those monks can hit incredibly hard based on that life gain, of course. And then also, yeah, I mean, again, the prowess based on the monks that you already have in play with this card. And on top of that, being able to use those monks that you are making with Rally the Monastery to actually draw cards as well and benefit you. Again, going wide with this one, utilizing that as like a removal slash, combat trick slash go wide card for this kind of a strategy. Again, a relevant creature type. Kind of, again, like a dragon fodder, again, for this one, but more flexible. But again, yes, dependent on you casting another spell to be actually efficient. That being said, you can probably handle it with a commander like this. Okay, let's get off of Jeskai just for a second here. But let's talk about Baylen the Haymaker, a 4/3 rabbit warrior for 3 mana in Naya. Tap 2 untapped tokens you control, add 1 mana of any color. Tap 3 untapped tokens you control, draw a card. Tap 4 untapped tokens you control, put 3 counters on Baylen. It gains triple on turn. This is a token commander that literally does everything. It is super, super, super powerful. And having token generation spells, yeah, you've got more efficient ones most likely. That being said, you still have, the flexibility of this brand new one, which is also efficient too. And yeah, casting multiple spells in a turn is, of course, super easy for this commander because you've got so much mana, your head is going to spin. Because obviously you've got, well, you're in green, number one. Number two, you can just utilize your tokens to make mana. And of course, when you cast that spell, and when you make those monks, great, good for you. If you're casting other spells to make more tokens, a lot of those are going to be non-creature as well to pump those as well. That being said, also the mana, that you can actually get from your monks too, that kind of like makes up for some of the mana you just spent to cast this spell. So it is a card that, again, can help you in a lot of different ways. It is flexible, and yeah, when it comes to Baylen, there's so many different things to consider for this commander and so many different amazing cards for it, but it is definitely one that I could see players considering for, okay, like, it is like half removal and also like half, again, token generation or like a pump effect if I need. I'd say I keep them not trying to forget about the pump effect, but I'd say that like when you're ranking the things, like the pump effect is probably the least impactful thing, but it can still obviously be pretty impactful with a commander like this and could just be like a, oh, surprise, like extra damage, get through. Yeah, Baylen the Haymaker can definitely consider this card. Next up, Jinnie Fey Jetmir's second, a 3/3 elf druid for 3 mana in Naya. If you create one or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 green cat creature tokens with haste and that many 3/1 green dog creature tokens with vigilance. Yeah, this is one that could consider it. It is dependent upon the build, though, I would say. But yet another token commander that's like, okay, I like to go wide. I like efficiency. And when it comes to that, you probably have a good amount of, again, low-to-the-ground ways to make tokens, or, yeah, some low-to-the-ground ways to do things, essentially, with this kind of a commander. And with that, you can pretty easily cast multiple spells in a turn, and kind of having, again, like, basically a dragon fodder that is flexible, and that if you need it as removal, you can use it as removal. So, yeah, you kind of are downplaying the importance of that prowess, obviously, because you're like, okay, I'm trading off the prowess to either make it's slightly bigger. I mean, I guess if you have like cat synergies or dog synergies, great, but still just like slightly bigger as a 2/2 or a 3/1, of course, in having haste and vigilance, or vigilance, I should say. Yeah, that can definitely be impactful. So it depends on like, your build for Jinnie Fey, but Jinnie Fey could definitely be one to consider this as well. Again, go wide strategies, token strategies that care about flexibility with certain cards, that can definitely see play. Next up, one of the many Gandalfs. I think there was like 6 of them, right? My goodness, wizards. Gandalf of the Secret Fire. Did anyone else forget about this one? 3/4 Avatar Wizard for 4 mana in Jeskai. Whenever you cast it, it's a sorcery spell from your hand during an opponent's turn. Exile that card with 3 time counters on it instead of putting it in your graveyard as it resolves. Then if the exile card doesn't have to spend, it gains to spend. Be able to play cards on your opponent's turn. This is already just, say, hey, you know what? You should already be doing this. You probably have some low-to-the-ground ways to play cards on your opponent's turns to make sure that you are actually getting extra value out of them. Essentially cast them a second time, which is quite nice. Being able to essentially do that, though, and say, you know what? Let's just get some value off of that in the next thing. Yeah, now you can actually get value off of the Rally the Monastery card as well and get to cast it again a second time. So you're kind of, in a way, I mean, again, like you're saving 2 mana the first time, you also save like 4 mana the second time just by casting it for free, and that can be a lot of value. Again, casting a lot of spells, that prowess trigger is going to be going off again and again and again if you are utilizing that monk side of the card, essentially. So yeah, it is definitely a commander to consider this one, again, depending on the build, but yeah, like a Spellslinger Gandalf, could consider it. Finally, again, very dependent upon the build, because it could kind of be a non-bow for certain Arabella and all decks, but depending on the build again, a 1/3 toy for 2 mana in Boros. Whenever it attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent. You gain X life for X, a number of creature controlled power 2 or less. This is where prowess actually can be a somewhat bad thing for you, but again, it really depends upon the build. It depends. I mean, like, I don't know about you, but, when I was younger in my Magic career, and still these days, sometimes it's like, I still just sometimes play my things in the main phase, the first main phase, just out of habit. I mean, like, oh yeah, whenever I do these things, okay, go to combat, I guess I do nothing second main phase. Yeah, technically, I mean, obviously in more competitive Magic, it's like, okay, yeah, I don't do anything in my first main phase, basically, do combat and then do that. Yes, okay, sure. If you aren't really an Arabella deck that like cares about the first main phase all that much, like if you don't have like a bunch of like hasty things that you're doing or whatnot, then yeah, then you are going to be incentivized to utilize this card still, because it is, again, basically like a dragon fodder that is flexible, again, as removal, and that can be quite impactful for you. But if you're like, okay, I want to do all my things first main phase, and I'm like, okay, I just pumped my monks outside of the range that they actually, you know, activate with Arabella, then what's the point? So again, it depends on the deck, it depends on the build, but if you are just, okay, yeah, I go wide, I get a bunch of low-to-the-ground creatures out, and all of a sudden I am, again, swinging with them, I'm not casting too many non-creature spells in your first main phase. Again, like, you can cast creature spells, you can cast other things, but like, non-creature spells, if you're not planning on casting a ton in your first main phases, then yeah, it's definitely something to consider as a dragon fodder that is flexible. So again, overall, when it comes to like the debate around cards online, the answer is usually somewhere in between. You know, players are like, this is amazing, this is terrible. It's usually somewhere too. It's like, oh, it's good for the right strategy. It's actually really good for the right strategy. And yeah, if it's, you know, you're not planning on casting multiple spells on a turn, no, I'm not paying 4 mana for this. So yeah, this is a card, again, for the right home. It can be a very good card. Again, you can kind of see the progression of things over time with, I'm not going to call this card like power creep, but like, again, like it is kind of like a pseudo dragon fodder that gets the additional flexibility. And yeah, it is a solid card when it comes to the right strategy out there. If you can consistently get it where you're just paying 2 mana for it, yeah, that's going to be a lot of value, making some relevant tokens, again, that can actually be some pretty heavy hitters with that prowess, especially for certain decks out there, like, you know, ones that, I don't know, maybe give creatures prowess as well, and can stack that, but also having that flexibility of removal, that is huge. And yeah, I kind of, again, downplay the pump part of it, but having that little combat trick could be quite nice for you as well. But yeah, it is a card that, in my opinion, yeah, it just depends on the build out there. It's not a garbage card, it's not one of the most powerful cards of all time, but depending on the build that you have, it could definitely be one where you're very excited about it, and not surprisingly so, where it's like a card where, okay, you know, I like having that kind of flexibility in my decks as well, where I want it to be incredibly synergistic, and being able to say, okay, well, like, maybe this isn't the best piece of removal of all time, but it is a decent enough piece of removal, and it can actually, again, help me with my strategy and be synergistic if I have a go-wide token strategy or whatnot, or again, like a spellslinger strategy, and I want to get some tokens on the board with it, or like a prowess strategy. Cool. Now I can say, all right, this actually checks the box for going wide. It also checks the box for removal. It is a flexible card, and it can be a very good piece for one of those builds. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. As always, comment below your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.